Hello everyone, Veronica Spriggs here, and today I am going to show you how to use images that you grab from the web and make them actually usable for your scrapbooking projects and make them really high quality for printing. As we know, when we're grabbing images from the web, a lot of times they're just saved with low quality for use on the internet, and they're usually about 72 to 96 dpi, very small in size, and not usable at all for a 12 by 12 page. So I'm going to show you how to change all that and make beautiful graphics that you got from the web, and you can customize them and use them in your own scrapbooking projects. So here we go. The first thing we're going to do, here I'm at kidsworldonsugar.com, and I found a beautiful little Thumbelina that I'd like to use. So I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to drag it directly into Photoshop. I'm going to begin by promoting this background to a layer so that I can work on it. And we have a great image, but a couple of problems. The first thing, if you'll zoom in, you can see that the image is really poor quality. There's a lot of artifacting going on, and it just looks really terrible. So the next problem that we have, if I were to create a new image, 12 by 12, the typical scrapbooker's page, and put that onto my scrapbook page, you can see that it's really tiny and isn't going to make much impact at all. So we're going to go ahead and change all that. The very first thing we're going to do is go to Image, Image Size, and as you can see, this is indeed 72 pixels per inch, and we're going to change that to 300. Okay, now by setting the resolution to 300, you can see that the width has now changed to 2,363 pixels, and the height is 3,308 pixels. That's great because the page that we're working on is actually going to be 3,600 by 3,600. So go ahead and say OK. Now, as soon as that enlarges, you can see that the quality is horrible. There's a lot of blotches and spottiness, which is called artifacting, and it's a really blurry image, and it looks terrible. We wouldn't want to use it in this condition. So, I'm going to show you how to create a beautiful, crisp, clean, and smooth image. The first thing we're going to do, I'm going to zoom out so you can see better, is go to Filters. Actually, I'm going to zoom back in because I want you to be able to see this. Go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and we're going to go ahead and blur out the image. I have mine set to 3.9. You could try it a little bit lower or a little bit higher. But what you're looking for is you want to blur it out to the point where the artifacting starts to disappear. As you can see here, it's very fuzzy and gray. So I want to try and make that disappear as much as possible without blowing out the edges too much. As you can see here, the edges are already starting to be blown out. So I want to keep it as tight as possible but still have a smooth background. So I thought 3.9 or 4 works really well for this image. So go ahead and play around with that on your image. And then I'm going to click OK. Alright, that's not too bad. It's cleaned up a lot, but now you can see that the edges and the lines are just way too blurry. So now what we're going to do is go to Adjustments. And if you don't have your adjustments open, you can just go here to Window, and then you'll see the second one is Adjustments. If I click that, you'll see my adjustment window disappears. So just make sure there's a check there. And now you have your adjustment window. And basically you have a lot of tools here that you can play with. A lot of these are used in photography, but also really can spike up your images as well. Your brightness, contrast, levels, and curves, which is what we're going to be working with right now. And then there's some other tools that you can play around with if you've never opened this window. And now we're going to go to curves, just click on it, and then you'll see here in your layers panel, your curves adjustment layer has now been added. So now we're going to add 3 points. Firstly, we're going to add our highlights, which would be here, the mid-tones, and then the darkest tones. Mainly we're going to be working on the highlights and then the darker tones. So I'm going to go ahead and drag this up. Now, as you can see, as I drag it up, the page becomes brighter and all the fuzzy and furriness starts to disappear. So you want to drag that up until you have a nice, clean, white page. Now we're going to go to the bottommost layer and the darker tones, and we're going to begin to drag this down until the tones are nice and dark. And then we're going to go to our midtones. And basically I've created almost a straight line, as you can see here. If you look at my curves, I have the lower layer is set all the way down to the very bottom, and it's over towards the right. It's basically dead in the center. And then the low tones go up to the highlights in pretty much a straight line. But we've got a nice, dark, clear, and clean line now that's very good for coloring and adding effects. But I'm still not particularly satisfied because of this area in here. You can see that there's some fading and it doesn't look clear. Now, two ways you can clean that up. You can use a brush and just color it in. That might be the easiest way. Or you could just go ahead and bring in your low lights more until this is really, really dark. Okay, now that darkened up the edges pretty good. And if I go here and turn off the eye, you can see what it looks like without that adjustment layer. And this is really good because the adjustment layers actually let you modify your image without working on it and in a destructive manner. So go ahead and turn that back on and you can see that you've brought in the darkness here, you brought in some darker lines here and really filled those in a lot more. But in doing that, we've also created some jagged edges. So I'll show you how to get rid of that. You want to merge these layers, and I'm just going to go to Layer, Merge Visible. And then we're going to go to Select, Color Range, and then I'm just going to click anywhere on the white because I want to get rid of the white. There are filters that can do this for you. If you have one, go ahead and use it. And then I'm just going to hit the delete key and get rid of that. Actually, I have an action for extracting, so I'm going to just use that. Okay, now we're going to add another layer beneath our original image, and we're going to flood fill it with white. And we're doing that just so we can see what we're working on. All right, now we want to get rid of some of these jagged edges. So I'm going to hold down my control key, and then I'm going to click right here on my image in the layers panel so that we're going to select all of the edges. Now we're going to go to Refine Edge. And to activate Refine Edge, you just want to make sure you have one of your selection tools highlighted. I'm going with the freehand lasso, and then I just select Refine Edge. Okay, and now with my settings, radius is at 1, My contrast, this is the area there that you really want to play around with a bit, because this is going to control really how smooth the edges are. If I go down to about 13, the edges start to blur out. If I go to 50, I start, back again with the jagged edges. So I'm going to take it right to 30. And then you can see that I have a really nice, smooth image with nice, clean lines. And that looks good all over. So I have my smooth set to 3, feather at 1, and I'm contracted in by 8%. So I'm going to click OK. And now I'm going to inverse my selection by going to select, inverse, and you can see that my feather is set to 0.5, and then I'm just going to hit the delete key on my keyboard. And then deselect. And now you can see that I have nice smooth image to work with. Now this particular image happens to have a border around it, so I'm going to just easily get rid of that. I'll zoom in, and then I'm going to grab my crop tool and just crop around that. And then right click and choose crop. And there you have it. Our image is perfect. And now I'm going to create a new document, new, and then 12 by 12, 300 DPI. And I'm going to drag my newly created image right onto that. And there you can see what a nice large image we have that's perfect for working on a 12 by 12 document. She's completely adorable and ready to go. And tune in for the next tutorial. I'm going to show you how to color her in, and that's going to be so much fun. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.